All right, let me pull up one. Pulling up the event here, and also we'll post it in. So this 1 hour slot is really just to kind of get you caught up to speed on what we've been working on the last month. Ansha and I both work for the Amazon Web Services. We're both AI machine learning specialists, big data specialists. We're also working on a book called Data Science on AWS. I'll pull that up here real quick. So this is our book, Data Science on AWS. We're chugging along nicely. We've actually been getting pretty good feedback from the publisher. Haven't had to go back and rewrite everything like we were scared we might have to. So actually, it turns out we are pretty good writers, and the two of us worked really, really well together. So we've got a full link to the GitHub repo here that powers all the examples. These are pretty much a work in progress, but we do try to keep them running. Saturday, we'll actually dive deep into all of them and go through end to end, as many of them as we've completed anyway. So if I show you here, let's see, there's also this book survey I would highly recommend you all take. Let me just throw these into the chat here so you have, let's see, is this Q&A now? How about chat? So that's Data Science on AWS. Let me get you guys the view here of this. This is the upcoming Saturday. This is a free, Saturday is a free event. We have a few slots left. We had overwhelming number of people that signed up for this last time and completely filled up. So we are adding more capacity so we can handle more people. We usually end up answering about 300 to 400 questions, and very, very specific questions to your particular machine learning and data science problem. So think of it kind of like free consulting. Think of it like a hands-on, working through problems. We'll be covering everything from Kubeflow pipelines to SageMaker pipelines to running Spark with SageMaker, all kinds of stuff. So super exciting, very good breadth and depth of experience. Also, earlier this week, we did something called, before I show that, actually, let me show you the GitHub repo that powers, this GitHub repo is powering both the book and the workshop. We're basically running an instance of the book every single time that we do a workshop. We're gathering your all feedback, any feedback that you provide us on the book survey as well. If you click into that, we'll go directly into affecting the contents of the book. So we're about halfway through, still lots to write, but also we are making edits as we're seeing new projects come together and new announcements by Amazon. So that's the situation there. We've got some stuff in the early release that should be announced, I believe, this week or next week with the book. So you can actually get your hands on it through the Safari, through the O'Reilly Safari product there, and you can start. We've actually been handing out little mini versions of the book to friends of ours, internal friends of ours, like within Amazon that don't necessarily know a certain part of either Spark or the Athena. They know the machine learning really well, for example, but they don't necessarily know how to use Athena, or have some gaps in their knowledge. So we're actually spreading this book kind of throughout Amazon and to our peers, and it seems to be working really well. We're not only getting good feedback on what could be explained more clear, but we're also just getting simple spelling fixes and grammar fixes and things like that. So we're super excited about the book, and we feel by the time it ends up on Amazon.com for sale, it'll be pretty much as good as we can make it. All right, the other thing that Ansha and I spent quite a bit of time this week was building these Katacoda scenarios. And this is a partnership that we made with O'Reilly Media. We actually have a couple different variants here. We've got really, really small ones, 1 through 10. And then these last two are kind of all the Kubeflow ones and all the MLflow ones packaged up separately. The reason that we did this was we actually had a couple cases where we needed to fill a larger time slot than just, 5-minute scenarios. So we actually ended up doing, kind of one combined, and they are the same material. We have some tricks on the back end, how we share the content and, wire it up into the right place. But if you give these a try, they should be able to work if you click on here and then start a scenario. If you're not familiar with Katacoda was just recently purchased by the O'Reilly folks, and now it's the O'Reilly's mission to have creators and partners and friends like us that are specialists in certain technologies. So that's what we've been spending lots of our time on and fulfilling. We'll be doing this event again. If you go to O'Reilly's online training, see online O'Reilly training. I think if you click around in here, you should be able to get to, click around in here. Next one for us, Ansha, do you remember the next one for us? May, June?
So the next one is in July.
July 17th or something? 15
yeah,
or 17th?
I think the 15th of July.
Okay, and unfortunately they haven't yet posted it. They posted, like, I believe 2 months before it's launched, but we know it because we already have it on our calendar. This will be posted within in May, so sign up quickly for that. We're trying to get them to open up slots too. There's, if you get 1,000 people that are signed up, typically you get 25 to 30%. And we've purposely worked with the Katacoda folks to scale this up into the hundreds. We did one event where we had, I believe, 1,200 people, and worked pretty well. So yeah, so keep an eye on that. It's really great. We go through, installing Kubeflow, building Kubeflow pipelines, doing A/B tests with Kubeflow. People also have quite a lot of questions about hyperparameter tuning. How do I use MLflow? How do MLflow and Kubeflow come together? And have to give compliments to specifically Ansha. On Saturday, she ended up talking for most of the time slot. That was our first time doing it, and she ended up speaking for about 2.5 hours, and I got about 30 minutes. So yeah, I was feeling good this weekend. She was a little bit drained. So thanks, Ansha.
Sure.
All right. You're like, you will never let that happen again, will you? All right. Quick glance at the sort of Amazon specific stuff today. Yes, Amazon does pay our bills and does provide compute, and SageMaker resources and Kubernetes resources, and really does let us explore even non-Amazon technologies, or not traditionally Amazon technologies. And so that's one thing I really like about my job, about joining as a developer advocate for Amazon, is I could talk about community things and show how to run these community projects on Amazon and actually lock it down securely, show the best practices, and show how to even use Kubeflow with SageMaker or Kubeflow with EMR for Spark jobs. So if you notice, we've pretty much broken down the book, and this directly came from a brainstorm session with Ansha. She was here in spring in San Francisco. We went to the Amazon office and just brainstormed for about 2 or 3 weeks, and really nailed down how we were going to do this and which technologies. We've spoken to all of these higher level PMs, product managers, and service managers. They're all on board. They think it's a really good time to be writing this kind of book. These products are stable. Customers are finding them super useful, and saving money. And so our book focuses really on how to save money with AWS and with SageMaker and with these different products, and then also at the same time boost up performance, right? Because you could spend so much effort trying to reduce costs, but at the same time you're really hurting yourself in the end if you have really crappy performance, then it just washes out. So each of our chapters so far has a section, very last section right before the summary, that says how to increase performance and to reduce costs. So very, very focused on that. It's something we always deal with. You know, me before joining Amazon, I was always trying to save costs when I was running on Amazon. And then same with Ansha when she was with a company called MapR, where we were trying to pass on savings to our customers as well. So this is actually the updated outline. We got word from our public relations marketing group that we're actually using 2018's logo. So we ended up digging out the latest 2020, added some color. But yeah, as you can see, our kind of very, very first focus here, chapter 2, you know, chapter 1 is usually dedicated to some intro and some, you know, preface and like a little bit of context setting and who the audience is. 2 is really kind of the first technical chapter, and we've really spent quite a lot of time focusing on what would be a very effective chapter 2, what's really going to capture people's interest. Because the audience is potentially diverse. You know, we have business users looking at this, we have business analysts, we have people that just have CSVs, we have people that do have some feature engineering experience or some machine learning experience. But really, at the end of the day, people have data and they want to derive some kind of predictive or build a predictive model from that data. And this can be done with just one click and can be done using something called autopilots, which was released actually in December 2019, just a few months ago at the reInvent. Also, there's like some of these higher level AI services, you know, like comprehend. This is where you could just shove a bunch of text, you know, point comprehend, add a S3 bucket that, you know, contains a bunch of text. Maybe it's a bunch of product manuals for your particular product line, or, you know, has a bunch of comments that have come in off of the Twitter feed. And all you want to do is just categorize these things. Are these positive comments? Are these for a particular product? Can we cluster them and you know, derive? So think of text in the wild or data in the wild. You don't really know where to start. So let's just pipe it in somewhere and see what we get back. So we're kind of loosely calling that one-click ML. You know, funny enough, Amazon.com had a patent on the term one-click for many years. Actually, just expired a couple of years ago. So I'm going to keep the one-click in here until Amazon Legal tells me otherwise. But I really want to hammer home that, you know, there are ways to use Amazon and use their AI services and their like ML, sort of lower level ML services with just one click. And so spend a lot of time on that. Actually, Ansha has been like working on that the last couple of weeks. We've been adding more and more things. We have things in there about deep lens, about deep racer, you know, sort of gadget AI or edge AI, right? Like AI IoT is a new term that we found in some of the Amazon marketing material, where you combine the word AI or that like acronym AI with IoT. It like looks like a typo, so we're trying to figure out how to best say it. But there's, you know, actually quite a lot of work going on across. And what we're seeing too is a lot of like machine learning that's happening at like Amazon.com actually ends up funneling through and being made more general and then being offered to the public, so that other places, yes, other customers can actually use those products as well. And so things like comprehend, yeah, so these kind of things were like originally, you know, they started to be developed within customers of ours, and then we're able to then pull it out and then make it a generic service. Kinesis started this way as well too. Kinesis was used internally by the AWS folks to track billing, to track, you know, EC2 instance usage, track S3 bucket usage. And so why wouldn't we just make this more of a generic platform and then start to offer it for things like streaming data? Okay, then chapter 3, we had a whole lot of fun with. Chapter 3, this is where we really explored the Athena, which is based on Presto. We cracked open Redshift, dove deep into that, created some sample like notebooks and some sample queries and built a sample like Redshift cluster. The goal here was to take a common data set, which we actually chose the 150 million, there's these Amazon.com customer reviews, and we have 150 million of them across, I think it's about 50 categories, so lawn and garden and software and books. And, really just kind of tore that like data set up and, really started taking a look at are there patterns or correlations with the number of reviews versus the number, so different correlations. We did this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and so I'm even forgetting right now. But we found some like interesting patterns. What are the most useful star ratings? So star rating 1 through 5. People actually find 1s and 5s to be the most, which makes sense. The extremes. So there's some obvious ones here that you can confirm, and there's also a couple really subtle ones that like we were able to pull out and then put in as part of this book. Exploring the data set, more of that. We're showing how to do more analysis using QuickSight, which is kind of like Tableau. We're also then diving right into SageMaker notebooks, which gives us access to Matplotlib and Seaborn. Now we start getting more and more into SageMaker, and this is chapter 5, where we are really doing feature engineering. The name of this chapter kind of loosely is like preparing your data set. Really, now we're getting ready to train our models. And yes, as you know, these machine learning models, AI models, don't like raw text or don't like, raw images necessarily. There's typically a step in between. And so depending on, how complex your data is, or if you have a bunch of images with only a gray background because you're in Seattle or you're in London and 99% of your pictures have a gray background because there's very little sun in those places, you want to do some engineering. And so we've chosen BERT, which is a very, very state-of-the-art text-based natural language processing and natural language understanding model, BERT, B-E-R-T. It's pretty much the like most advanced, and really has been giving us really, really good classification type so typically like we're seeing 80 to maybe 88% like accuracy, trying to classify, is a particular rating that we see in the wild, yes, is this a negative comment or a positive comment, or which product category does this particular comment go to? Because what if we just get a comment off of Twitter and we have no idea which product category this goes to? So then we could route that comment to a particular PM for that particular division, for the lawn and garden group, whatever, and have them address it like directly. So some really, really cool like use cases. We could pull out even specific products and say this is this kind of an electric razor. And so yeah, super powerful. We're seeing really, really good results. BERT is just amazing. We've been diving deep in it to write this book, and I think you'll be really excited when you see some of the inner details of how BERT works and how BERT can be applied to your domain. Okay, so of course, processing jobs. This is so chapter 5. This is a newer feature that was released in December. You can also actually use EMR. We're actually taking a pretty strong stance where we're actually just going to be using the Spark-based SageMaker processing jobs. So while we do have examples using EMR, I think to keep the book streamlined and to kind of keep it focused, I think we're just going to show you how to do serverless Spark jobs. Not many people know how to do this. We actually prefer it in our personal modeling, me and like Ansha's modeling. And I come from Databricks, so I'm super familiar with Spark. I'm super familiar with EMR. I just wanted something very, very minimal, very easy to plug into my existing SageMaker pipelines. And these processing jobs fit the bill perfectly, and they support Spark. So I could scale Spark out. I could pay for just what I'm I'm using and have it tear it down, and then my output is in an S3 bucket, which can then be picked up by Chapter 06 for training the model. So training the model, I'm not going to spend too much time here. This is one of the more well-studied and well-documented parts of the machine learning pipeline. But just know that we'll have Scikit-Learn, we'll have some Spark in there, we'll have mostly TensorFlow. We have that survey that I mentioned earlier this morning. If you want to fill that out, you could actually influence. The first version of this, we were pretty much going to focus on XGBoost because it came in as, or it seemed to be coming in as kind of the most common denominator. What we realized after running the survey for a couple months is people want to see PyTorch, and they want to see TensorFlow. So we switched our samples over and focused pretty much exclusively on that list that you see here. We'll have a tiny bit of like MXNet. Yes, MXNet is very big within Amazon, as Amazon will always support MXNet. There's no going away from that. I just personally know TensorFlow and PyTorch better, and I could scale those out, and I have a lot more to say about those technologies. So, and there's also a book that has been published, I think, in the last year or two on how to run MXNet on like Amazon. So didn't feel the need to really overlap too much with that. Okay, train and the optimize. This one looks like a short chapter because there's only 2 little blurbs here, but actually we're going to deep dive into autopilot, which we mentioned in 02 for the one-click ML, and really tear that thing open and really show you what's going on beneath the covers and how to treat autopilot like a white box. Autopilot is so this is Amazon's version of AutoML. This is, our implementation of doing automated machine learning. So like I said, in the one-click, you just give it a CSV that could have text, or it could have categorical, or it could have, like numerics or prices, feed it in, and then autopilot actually figures out which model it's going to use, if it's regression, if it's clustering, if it's categorical. You have to tell it, of course, what are you trying to predict? And then at that point, autopilot can sort of mix and match features and do feature engineering, and also then do hyperparameter tuning. And in this case, hyperparameter tuning also includes the feature engineering, which is very, very unique. So said differently, classic AutoML is performing just hyperparameter tuning and trying out different models, trying out different hyperparameters. If I want to compare one decision tree to another decision tree, I could try 10 levels deep versus 5 levels deep. Well, here with AutoML, we could actually not or try a tree, but then also try a linear model also. So I can compare trees to linears. I could compare BERT to TF-IDF. I could compare Word-to-Vec to other, and all the feature engineering that's required by the specific model, BERT, decision tree, like TF-IDF. These things all get done for you within Autopilot. And so that section ends up being pretty much about a third of that book. And it's a super interesting chapter. We're able to go quite deep into what is machine learning and show, how you can hook into Autopilot in this sort of white box approach. Whereas some other cloud providers, some other solutions are more black box, and all you could do really is just feed in data and get the data out, and can't really tune anything from there. Okay, so once we actually have a hyperparameter tuned or an autopilot tuned model, we can choose the best candidate, is typically what it's called. Maybe we ran 250 different variations across all of our hyperparameters, across a bunch of different models, across a few different feature engineering steps. We can now pick 1 or 2 or 5 different variants. Yeah, so let's say we choose the top 5 best variants from our autopilot job. So now we can actually deploy all 5 of those together, and maybe we send 20% traffic to each one. And after a while, we could tell which one's doing the best, and we could tear down 4 out of the 5. That's not a super common type of thing to do. Like, you typically don't want to be testing that many variants. These are called A/B tests, and you see people go, A, B, C, but I'm just kind of posing in the context of like storytelling here. Yeah, just explaining what is possible. Okay, so we can monitor those models after they go into production. We can very quickly see, perhaps we did a 50 layer deep decision tree, and that decision tree, while it was super accurate during training, now it takes 6 minutes per prediction, and so that's not really successful. That was successful in the offline training context where it had good accuracy, but it's not very good because it has to traverse 50 different layers to give you and use a whole ton of memory to give you that prediction. So maybe some other model, like a linear model, might actually do a better job. So these are the things. This is really, hyperparameter tuning continues after the model has been trained and into production. This is also where you'll hear the term like canary releases, which are related to A/B tests. We can monitor these models and figure out if they're starting to skew, if they've been defrauded, for example. Let's say we launch a fraud model, that model goes out. Suddenly, within 1 hour, that model is now, it was 75% accurate, which was good, but now it's getting down into the 65, into the 60, and it's slowly going down as someone has figured out this model. What we want is the proverbial 3 a.m. Pager or text message or phone call. In like this case, for example, we actually want the data scientists to get paged at 3 in the morning. So they'll be happy to hear about that. So meanwhile, the DevOps folks are sleeping happy. There's really not much they can do. What we need is someone who understands the statistical nature of this model and can make some changes and get another version of this model into production that's using the data that has been defrauding us for the last hour, let's say. Okay, so this is really kind of real-time machine learning, like near like real-time machine learning. Okay, and then after that, of course, we want to do all this over and over again. You've seen Kinesis popping up here and there. I think it was in 03, and then here it is in 09. We haven't yet wired these up in our samples. We've got a little bit more code to write and some more phone calls with the Kinesis teams to like understand where their roadmap is going. Because keep in mind that we are writing this book to where SageMaker will be at the end of this year and then beginning of like 2021. So if we wrote the book to where it was today, we would already be done, and we don't feel this would be as good of a book because very quickly you'll like read the book and then next month there's an announcement and it's not captured here. So we're purposely waiting till the reInvent conference happens because we know lots of stuff gets released there. We're not privy to some of that knowledge until a couple weeks before, and certainly we find out pretty much around the same time you guys do. So that gives us enough time to incorporate these in and get you guys the best book that will last you the next 3 or 4 years. Finally, we'll be doing Kubeflow. I was very, very strong when I put this proposal together with the O'Reilly folks and said, I know that you guys have other Kubeflow books in the works, but I want a Kubeflow book that shows how to run this on Amazon. And there's enough, so there's enough configurations, there's enough, auto scaling, there's enough IAM role integrations, security integrations. There's plenty here. We actually technically have 2 chapters, chapter 10 and then I think the chapter after it is more on Kubeflow pipelines. We'll see. We may actually make it 3 chapters. We could potentially combine it into 1 chapter. We're still trying to figure that out. Funny enough, as we start to write things, we find out from our like Kubeflow group that they're working to make things simpler. So we had spent like a pretty long section on a particular Kubeflow configuration for Amazon and then realized that they just released something where, that feature is now just one line in a YAML. And so while that is kind of frustrating, we are happy to catch word of it and then fix our samples and then pass it on to you guys. So at the end of this, my hope is that Kubeflow fits into this stack just like everything else does, and shouldn't take 3 separate chapters to explain it. So that's the goal. Hope you guys found this interesting. Ansha, do you have anything to say? Anything that you've been working on that you think is cool?
Not so much. I guess you covered most of it. Not sure if we have actually people from Europe in the call. So I've been working not at another side project, yeah, exactly, on a hackathon that's starting this weekend. It's called the AI for Good Hackathon. So for a change, this is not focused on any COVID-related activities, but really trying to help to find smart solutions tackling some of the environmental problems. So it's more like a climate AI for Good hackathon. Super excited. It's going to be focused around computer vision to analyze satellite images, etc. And it's organized by Deep Berlin. So Deep Berlin is kind of a program, as the name suggests, that helps to promote deep learning and AI solutions in Berlin and surroundings. So if anyone from Europe is here in the call, not sure if there's still time to register. I think the link is still active. It's taking place this weekend. And AWS is proud to be a partner. So we're super excited to see the teams and obviously the solutions that are getting produced in the hackathon.
Cool. Okay, and then I'm just wrapping up here with a bunch of links here from earlier. So here's the Katacoda stuff. You can run that on your own. The instructions are all there. I just posted Ansha's AI for Good. Here's the workshop. This is exactly, oh, and then on Saturday, just to be very clear, you don't need to bring anything except a browser, a modern browser. Here's the book link. Here's the survey. Please fill out that survey. You don't need to, give us your email. Yes, if you do, we will only send you notifications on when the book is ready, when it's an early release, and then also send you coupons as well too, discounts. And I think this is for online stuff here that we did this week. So I think we'll probably give you guys back the extra 25 minutes, unless there's some questions. The other thing is you can reach us at support@pipeline.ai for more questions. Yeah, if you're raising your hand, if you could just type the question right in here, and then I think we will wrap it up. The slides, there's really no slides, honestly. All these links were the slides. I think I have, this is pretty much the agenda here. It's not letting me copy that much text, but this is basically what I was trying to send you. So yeah, hopefully chapter 2 will be in the early release. So we should have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 by the end of this month. Class on Saturday, we'll go over everything. Yeah, so if you want to take a quick glance, if you want to not go and just kind of do it on your own, just know that we will be giving you a complete and free environment AWS account to use for the duration of the event. So you will not spend any money, just your time with us. And if you do want to pull everything down, obviously just do a GitHub Git clone. There's nothing that we're not presenting. All of the materials that we're presenting are open source and taking feedback from you guys during these things. Yeah, yeah, go ahead. There was one technical question. Okay, what hardware do I need to run the notebooks if I want to have a look before Saturday? Yeah, that's a tricky one. You would have to spin up a Jupyter notebook and essentially follow these instructions here, except you'll be using your own account. So yeah, that's a tough one to answer. Let's see, we use a C5 2XL, I believe, which is probably over provisioned. But if you follow these steps and you're pretty savvy with Amazon, you can kind of work backwards from here. Okay. Which clouds would you get best access? I don't know. Hyperparameter tuning. Yeah, Georgios, good question. Let's see. I would need to hear more about your model. The AutoML implementations by the different cloud providers have you know, like different limitations on what they support right now. Tabular data for classification. Yeah, you can certainly do that with AutoML. Just note, or sorry, with like Autopilot. So one tip for Autopilot, we'll actually talk about this on Saturday. We can make sure you drop or you lower the default number of parallel jobs. Autopilot by default will run approximately 250 jobs. They're small jobs, but runs a lot of them. So just be careful there. Yeah, and if you come on Saturday, and you know, I definitely wouldn't recommend putting any sensitive data into these accounts, the temporary accounts that we're giving you, but you can, you know, just take a sample or take a similar document and run the AutoML, because we'll certainly be doing AutoML on Saturday. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed today, and please fill out that survey, which will be off of here. Thanks, everyone.